Nine Inch Nails fans rejoice. There's new music on the way in 2020, but there's a catch. It's sounding like it may be an album of duets. Who could we be seeing on this new collaborative album? I'll offer up my own wild suggestions coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so that you won't miss future reviews and more. In spite of the fact that 2019 saw no new music from Nine Inch Nails, it was still a busy year for the band's mastermind, Trent Reznor. He dropped multiple film scores with partner Atticus Ross, inducted The Cure into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he snagged a nomination for the Rock Hall himself. On top of all that, he inadvertently found his music to be the basis of one of the biggest songs of all time, thanks to a Nine Inch Nails sample used in the song Old Town Road. As the year drew to a close, Reznor did an interview with Revolver magazine to talk about everything going on in his musical world. Of course, one of the main things fans want to know is when we will hear new Nine Inch Nails music. The good news is Reznor revealed that that is definitely something he's working on for 2020. But perhaps the most surprising thing about that is the form Reznor suggested the music may take. He said that he had a template for what they want to do next with Nine Inch Nails and that it involved collaboration. In the Revolver article, Trent Reznor is quoted as saying, "We've got a list of people we like and we thought, kind of playing on the newfound spirit of collaboration that scoring has forced us into, seeing what happens when we mix our DNA with some other people with a no-pressure environment, let's see what happens. If something good happens, then maybe the world can hear it. But if it doesn't, we put it in the pile with the other." So I have to say, that's a pretty tantalizing bit of information. We've seen various guest musicians show up on Nine Inch Nails albums over the years, but I'm not sure we ever expected an album of Nine Inch Nails duets. Well, to call it a duets project is probably a bit pejorative. After all, I don't think Trent is implying that we'll hear him sharing the mic with artists like Ed Sheeran or Ariana Grande anytime soon. But as I started to think about the possibilities, I started to draft an interesting list of acts that I thought could, well, to put it in Reznor's words, mix with Nine Inch Nails' DNA. I also came up with a short list of acts that, while they might work, they still seemed unlikely to actually happen. In fact, I call these far-fetched collaborations more of a stunt. Imagine, if you will, Nine Inch Nails featuring Billie Eilish, Lana Del Rey, Lorde, Kanye West, Jack White, Fiona Apple, Jack Antonoff, Miley Cyrus, and Foo Fighters. Now, to be fair, Trent Reznor and Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters have worked together quite a bit in the past. Most notably, Dave played drums on much of the With Teeth album. Still, I find the idea of a true shared collaboration between the two to be pretty unlikely. And while I don't think I want to make any predictions about who actually would appear on any collaborative Nine Inch Nails album, I do have my own sort of wish list, shall we say. Artists that I think would not only complement Reznor's musical aesthetic, but who also seem like realistic possibilities. So, in no particular order, here's some of the options that I came up with. First off, there's Brian Eno. To me, this feels like a no-brainer. And if I was to actually make a bet on anyone actually ending up on such a project, it would be Eno. This is a guy Reznor has clearly honored or emulated in his music from as far back as the Downward Spiral. Never mind Eno's groundbreaking work with his band Roxy Music, which by itself makes him a great choice for a collaborator. Beyond just that, Eno helped shape the sound of acts including U2, Talking Heads, Genesis, Devo, Coldplay, and of course, David Bowie. Another fairly safe bet may just be Tori Amos. Reznor and Amos go back a long way, with both acts getting their starts right around the same time. They've previously contributed to each other's albums, but have never really worked together in a truly collaborative sense. It's been rumored that there's been bad blood between the two, but with the passage of time, I would not be surprised if they've mended fences. The next act on my wish list is the legendary but reclusive Tom Waits. Now, from a songwriting perspective, a collaboration between Reznor and Waits may not seem like a natural fit, but if you're more familiar with Waits' deeper discography, then you know the man can get pretty weird. There's actually a lot of strange and experimental spoken word stuff in Tom Waits' catalog, and I could totally see him adopting that sort of mode on a Nine Inch Nails project. And as rare as it is for Tom Waits to release new music anymore, this may just be the kind of project that could nudge him out of seclusion. You know, I mentioned earlier how Trent Reznor inducted The Cure into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019, so perhaps it would not be unreasonable to imagine that the band's Robert Smith might return the favor by working in the studio with him. Smith has actually participated in a variety of interesting collaborations over the years, and he's even exhibited that spirit recently when he curated the lineup for the Meltdown Festival, which included 9 Inch Nails. And while we're on the subject of legacy acts that most certainly had an influence on the music of 9 Inch Nails, I've got 3 more goth rock pioneers to suggest. First, there's Peter Murphy, one of the original members of Bauhaus, a band that's actually been playing a handful of reunion shows recently. Murphy's post-Bauhaus solo career was just starting to take off right around the time that 9 Inch Nails was getting started. In fact, I bought Pretty Hate Machine and Peter Murphy's Deep album on the same day back in 1989. They've actually performed together before, and 9 Inch Nails even opened for him back on tour in 1990. So it seems like a true collaboration is now long overdue. My second and third goth rock pioneers hail from the same band, but they actually parted ways early on. Martin Gore and Vince Clarke were founding members of Depeche Mode, and together the two keyboardists had perhaps the biggest influence on the emergence of synthesizers as part of alternative music more than anyone else in that era. After they parted ways, Clarke continued to create groundbreaking music as a member of both Yaz and Erasure, and of course Martin Gore remains with Depeche Mode to this day and was literally instrumental in guiding that band to the darker sound to which 9 Inch Nails clearly owes a musical debt. So far, with the exception of Tori Amos, my list of potential collaborators has been a bit lacking in terms of diversity. So for my final few suggestions, let me mix things up a bit. I happen to think that 9 Inch Nails' instrumental aesthetic could lend itself quite well to a female vocal. For evidence of that, check out the Reznor Ross side project, How to Destroy Angels, which features Trent's wife, Mara Queen Mandig, on lead vocals. Or there's the Reznor Ross cover of Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song from their Girl with the Dragon Tattoo soundtrack, which has Yeah Yeah Yeah's frontwoman Karen O handling vocal duties. I can easily imagine either of those women contributing to new 9 Inch Nails music. To offer up a couple more names for consideration, might I suggest Beth Gibbons, the lead singer of the dark alternative electronic group Portishead. She's already demonstrated a masterful talent for blending soaringly beautiful vocals with an aggressively foreboding soundtrack, and I'd be fascinated to hear what she could do with 9 Inch Nails. And then there's Annie Clark, better known, of course, as St. Vincent. In addition to her excellent solo albums, St. Vincent also partnered with Talking Heads mastermind David Byrne for a critically acclaimed collaborative album in 2012, so it's clear that she plays well with others. And speaking of playing, St. Vincent is also somewhat of a guitar virtuoso. Again, if you've listened to her albums, it's easy to see how playing with Reznor and Ross would probably not be much of a stretch for her. And for my final suggestion for a potential 9 Inch Nails collaborator, I'm going to continue to inject some diversity into the mix by recommending one of my current favorite African-American R&B singer-songwriters. Gallant has landed on both my Best of 2019 list and my Best of the Decade list. He may not seem like an obvious choice, particularly if you're judging based on the songs he's released as singles, but if you dig deeper into his 2 full-length albums, or especially into his early EP, Zebra, in 2014, you'll hear several of his more moody, experimental tracks that create sonic soundscapes not unlike what you'll find not only on some 9 Inch Nails albums, but also on many of the Reznor Ross film scores. To that end, I think Gallant could contribute something truly unique to a 9 Inch Nails record. Of course, just because Trent Reznor says he's interested in doing collaborations on a new album doesn't mean they'd have to be with anyone that we'd ever heard of. He could very well end up recording with a batch of relatively obscure indie musicians whose names are largely unknown to the masses. That wouldn't be a bad thing either. After all, there'd be a lot less baggage or expectations involved with that kind of partnership. On the other hand, Trent Reznor may very well have reached a point in his career where he could call up just about any A-list talent and get them to perform on one of his records. So maybe there's no one that really is out of bounds. It's all just speculation at this point, of course. So let me turn things around and see what you think. What acts would you like to see collaborate on a 9 Inch Nails album? Do you agree with any of my suggestions? Or do you think the ones that I thought might be more of a stunt would not be so far-fetched after all? Or maybe do you swing in a very different direction? Does the idea of a Nine Inch Nails Duets album completely turn you off? Would such a thing be the musical equivalent of the band Jumping the Shark? Would you see it as a sign that Trent Reznor had perhaps run out of new ideas? Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Once again, my name is Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Plus, be sure to check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.